Hello game fans, tonight we're going to learn how to use this thing called a shader graph in Unity. Now there's always been a shader, but the shader graph makes making shaders easier because you could make them visually. So this is like kind of like the end effect of what we're going to do today. It's this water, which if you look at it, it's kind of like, it looks like it's moving, it looks like it's alive, but it's really just a texture with a special shader on it. And that texture, I could apply it to any shape, any mesh. And here it's applied to a sphere, and here it's applied to a cube. Okay, so let's see how we did that. All right, so I stopped the project there, and let's just move that off onto the side. And I'm going to open up a new Unity project so you can see how we do it right from scratch. Okay, so here's my Unity hub I'm using, and here I'm going to say new project. And with Unity Hub, you got to make sure for this tutorial, we got to make sure that we're using Unity 2018.1 and above. And right here, I'm using 2018.3. So I'll call this project my water tutorial. And it's a 3D project. And then I'll just press create project. And we'll wait for the project to create. All right, so here we have a default Unity project. And first thing we're going to need to do to our 3D project is we're going to have to import two packages that aren't there by default in Unity 2018.3. So I'm going to go to the package manager from Window, Package Manager, and that'll bring up the package manager window. All right. And here, anything with a check mark is something that is installed already. But I'm just going to remove the things that I don't need just so I could have a smaller project. So here I go, I'm just removing analytics library. I'm going to remove in-apps purchasing. And this is just deleting files from my project folder, so my, project is a little bit smaller. And Text Mesh Pro, that's for if I was going to make like a menu screen. It has like cool things you could do with text. And then Unity Collaborate, that's if I'm working with other people on a project. So I removed those those packages from my project, and now they won't show up here. See, it's only package manager. And I'm looking for some other packages to add. I want to add two packages. They're not showing right now, so I'm just going to go to advanced, and I'm going to show preview packages. So some of these are labeled preview because they're not officially released yet, but we can start learning how to use them anyway. So the first thing I'm going to need is the shader graph, and this helps me build shaders visually by dragging and dropping nodes together. So I'm going to install. Okay, so the shader graph installed, and here it is under my packages. Next thing I need is a render pipeline. So where'd you go, render pipeline? Here's my shader graph, and here's the lightweight render pipeline. I'm going to install that. And it's installing. Come on, install. All right, now I got the lightweight render pipeline. Those are the two packages I need by package manager window. So from here, what do I do next is I'm going to have to use the lightweight render pipeline in my project. So I'm going to have to create a rendering object called the lightweight render pipeline asset. And that's what I'm going to do here. And I'm just going to call it the lightweight render pipeline, LRP. Okay, and now here it is. This is its icon. That's the way it looks. And now to have my project use this lightweight render pipeline, I have to go to my project settings, which isn't there. Here it is, project settings, and graphics. And here, you can pick different things. Here I'm picking graphics and the scriptable render pipeline settings. Right now there is none. So I'm going to pick the asset that I just made. Okay. And now it's using the it's using that pipeline. And everything kind of pops in automatic. I just need to use it. So here it is. It's in there. And is there a save button? No, I just had my settings changed. Okay. Now the second thing I need to do is I'm going to create a new shader. So here is shader. And these are the three new things with the shader graph here, these three graph types. And I'm going to use the first one, PBR graph. So I'm going to select that. And down here, I'm going to call this my water shader, since that's the kind of effect I want to make with it. And now I get an icon like this for the water shader. Okay, so I got the shader, I got my lightweight render pipeline. Let's put an object in the scene that I could use to apply the texture that the shader makes to it. I'm going to use this here. It's a plane. And then I'm going to use a material. So create material down here. And this I'm going to call my water material. And how do I get this water material to use a shader? Do I just like, whoop? Yep, I just drag and drop it so that the water material is going to use my new shader. And then I could take the material and materials, I could drag on objects. Okay. All right, everything's set up except this shader is now what we're going to play with to do more things than we see. Because right now the shader's applied to this material and we could see there's like almost no settings on it. So now I'm going to double click on the shader to open up this new window. This is the shader graph window. And over here, this little panel over here shows me the properties for the shader, and any properties that come up over here, they're going to wind up showing up in the when you edit a material, they're going to wind up showing over here as something you could do, anything that I add over here. And this PBR master, this is the end result of whatever nodes I add. They're all going to apply to something over here, one of these properties here. And this here is a little preview of whatever the shader is looking like. And this is also a preview of what the shader is going to look like. And by default, it's applying it to a sphere, but you're going to see that you could also tell it to apply to a mesh. If you have a mesh of like a bear or a tree or whatever you're going to try to apply this to, a rock, you could see it right here, what it's going to look like as you're building the shader. And I don't need that because I'm just going to shrink that up, put it down in the corner, because I'm basically going to see my preview here for the water. So let's see, for example, now this is the PBR master. This is what the shader is going to have the element look like in my scene. So let me just try to it's going to be hard to show both things at the same time on my little monitor here for this video. But this window, I could use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. And, of course, I could move windows around a little bit. So I'm just going to try to get these a little tighter so I could try to show both things at once. Oh, you just get over there. And, okay, so you see it's gray and that's gray. Now if I put this to some other color like white, all right, and I say save it, then the color changes to white. And that's because I have the whole thing set up where the shader is on a material and the material is on my object, all right? So now I'm just going to come in here, and I know that I could set a value for something like straight off the back, but I could also set a value for something by adding a property. So this is a color. So what I could say is I could create node, and there's a lot of nodes in here. So usually the best thing to do is know what node you're looking for and just type it in. So I type in color, and I could have a color node, right? And this color node, I could turn it into a property. So now it's up here, whatever I set the color to. And that I could just drag and drop and say will be the color for my for the shader. But now since it's a, come back down here. Now since it's a property, you see right here it says color. And if I save this asset, now when I look back to my game, I can't really put them both together. Now if I just drag this down and look at the game, I could see here that it's black. But when I pick the plane And I'm gonna have trouble trying to show both screens at the same time here today, guys, but bear with me. Bear with me. I could dock this into a window, but I still won't have enough space because this shader graph thing, I kind of need a lot of space for it. Here you see the black, and here's the material, and now you can see there's a new property, color. See, so here I could pick a color for it, and the color changes. So that's what this does. The color comes in from a property in the inspector window instead of me having to hard code it in here. All right, let's keep going. I want to see, how did I make the water shader from before? This is the water shader from before. Don't look at it. We're going to work on it together. All right, so PBR master is the end result. Let's see. I have the color of my water, so I guess I could name this watercolor because that's going to be controlling the watercolor. So that watercolor thing will show here when I save the asset. It'll show in the inspector window as watercolor. And let's start adding some more things. The other thing we're going to need is a texture to apply. So basically the way we're going to play around with the water is we're using normals things, but I guess I'm going to need a texture. So let me right click and create a node. Let's see what we got for textures so that the user could specify a texture to use. So we have textures and a 2D texture asset. I think that's what I want. Boom. Sample 2D. No, this is a 2D asset. Wrong one. Let me delete that one. Let me add a create node sample 2D, sample texture 2D. Okay, so this is the kind of node I want. All right. And now with this, I could define a texture. I need a texture. I need a texture for applying the water normal. So what I'm going to do is look online for one. So let me just go to the browser, and here's my browser, and I'm going to look for water bump map. Okay, and we got a couple. Let's see if I just go by images. And I definitely want it to be seamless so you can't tell where they connect. And we have a number of them here. Some of them are very small, like 236 by 236, and some of them are larger. And let's just try to find a nice one that's big. All right, I guess I'll use this one, 512 by 512, and I'm going to download it, save it as my water bump, and I'll just save it to my desktop so I could find it easy. Save. Okay, then I'll just move this off screen and move this over, and here's the water bump texture. So I'll just drag and drop it into my project. Bam. And then over here, I could use it as a texture. Let's pick that water bump texture. Boom. And this texture, I want it to be able to output whatever that texture is to my normal map here. So I just drag and drop a line, and now there's a line connecting it. And you can see a little bit here in the preview how the bump is applied a little bit there now. And let's also say that we want the texture we're using for the water to be another parameter that we can input. So how do we do that? Is there something I could do that with? Normal map? Normal map? No. Is it texture? 2D asset? Oh gosh, I gotta think about this. I'm new to this still too myself. For now, let's leave it as a water bump texture, okay, that this is using, and we know how it looks. So I'm just going to shrink it up, save some space here. And that's outputting to there. Now the normal has these bumps, and part of the trick of making the water look like it's moving is that we're going to have these bumps move by changing the UV coordinates of the water. bump. So I'm going to add another node here called tiling and offset. There you go, tiling and offset. And this one, we're going to use the out from the tiling and offset to tell us what the UV mapping is going to be for this water texture, which means now with the offset here, as you see, if I could change the number, you see how look over here at the bump map, okay? So as I move this, the normal moves, which kind of would make it look like water. So now I just have to find something that could move these values for me. So how do we do that? How do we do that? There's another kind of node called time, right? So I'm going to create another node called time. And here it's just the computer time that keeps moving forward. And I could say to use the time to affect the offset over here. There, that works. So now you can see this is moving all by itself. Time's moving the offset. Let me save the asset. And let me just take a peek over here at there you go. See, so now it's moving. Maybe I'll just pick a better color like blue for water. So it looks more like a color of water, like a dark blue, okay? So now we can see we have something that is moving all by itself, just being a texture, because over here time's affecting the normal offset. Now we may want to control the speed that it's moving. So we could actually have a vector1 property that the user could type in a speed for the water to move at. So here's my vector1, and I'm going to turn it into a property. So here it is, and this will be, I'll just call it, double click on it and call it speed1 for now. So now I want to join the time and the speed to the offset. So I need something. I need a multiply node. Multiply. I guess there's what's an A and a B. I'm gonna try this one. Oh, it has an A and a B. All right. So for the A, I got the speed going into the multiply. And for the other factor, I'll have this one going into the multiply. All right, and then the multiply will go into the offset instead. So I take time multiplied by speed, and that's gonna change the offset. And what's my speed now? Because now this thing ain't even moving. So let's see, I made it a property. Let me save asset. And let me just look at my thing over here. Right now it's not moving, and my speed is 0. So if I increase the speed, that's like moving water at 0.09, okay? So that's one texture moving the water one way. Whew. Let's try to organize up these lines. Here was texture, which I did a tile and offset for, which I did a multiply between time and how much speed by speed to do the effect of the water moving at, what is it, 0.09, and that's how that looks right now. All right, so I know one thing that I did in the other one to make the water look realistic was I had one map going one way and another map going in the other direction. So let me think how I did that one is, okay, this is one direction with this, and then I think what I could do is there was a time I just shrunk it up a little. I take all these guys that did it for one direction and I control D. I make a copy, and I'm going to put these up here. Let me move the watercolor property there. I put these up here, and hey, you stay where you are. Will you work? Will you select? Good, selected everybody. Let me line this up. Then I'm going to also have the normal moving in another direction at the same time as the one that we see moving right now. So that's what I made a copy. Except this one over here, I'm just going to have it go in a different direction so that there'll be two different directions of the water, one moving down and another moving up, which kind of will make it look more like water, I realized. So on this one, to get this one to output into the normals as well, I need something to blend the two the way I blended these two inputs with multiply. So there's a thing called blend? Yeah, there's a thing called normal blend, since I'm going to blend these normals together. And what it could take an input from here, and it could take an input from here, okay? And then it takes both those inputs and puts it into the normal blend. All right, there we go, it's getting there. So now they're both going the same way. They're both using the same speed, so you're not really going to see a difference. But over here in the tiling, I think if I have a speed 2 over here instead, so let me not use this property. Let me delete speed 1 from there. And over here, let me add a new node for a value that you could put in a vector 1. And I'll call this one, where does it go? It goes over here. And then I'll make this one another property. There we go, and this is speed 2. Speed 2 is right there, okay? So this one uses speed 1. This one's going to use speed 2. And by the gods, I will organize this graph so I could see it all at once. Let me see, let me drag this like this and put you over here and drag you and, whatever. Speed 1, speed 2. So speed 1 and speed 2. Save the asset. And come over here now and see. Right now I have speed 1 going at 0.09 and speed 2 going in a different direction. Yeah, so you see now I have two different directions going on. Which kind of looks more like water. Now the only thing about this water compared to the other water I had was that the bump map is kind of gentle, so it's not as big as it was for my other thing. So let me just do it save over here. And I have to think if there's anything else that I want to use here. So put this in this. What happens if I play with the tiling over here in my shader graph? Boom, 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 boom. Well, I think I want to pick a different bump map so I could see more exaggerated the things of water. So I'm going to go back to the browser that I had found the water bump in. And, that one was kind of gentle. Try to find one that looks a little bit more, rough. Like, woo, this looks really rough. Or this one. Let's try this one. And I'll save this image to my desktop as water bump 2. Okay, so let's try see what this one looks like. Since I have it as a property that I could change the texture, and I'll drag and drop it into my project. And yeah, water bump 2 looks like it has a lot more bumpies. So oh, you know what? I didn't make a property to set the texture. So I've been like adding nodes into the window and then like right clicking and making them into properties. I could also just go over here in this properties window and then just add a property. And now I could see the different things I could add as a property, and I want to add a 2D texture. So this texture is going to be the water bump, the water normal, or I should just call it the water bump, okay? And all right, that's the name of the property. When I press enter, where the heck did it go on the screen? Or do I drag and drop it? Yeah, I drag and drop it in. Okay, so now I have a water bump texture. And there's two places that are going to use it, I guess. But if I want to spread it across two places, can I do that? Can I just drag and drop that to the texture over here? Yeah. And can I also drag and drop it to use as this texture here? Yeah, okay, good. I have to use a multiply node. So now I could set the texture from my inspector window. Let me press save. And then I'm going to go back to my Unity. Here I am, Unity. And then, yeah, here we go, water bump, which now there is no texture defined. And now I will define this as the normal. Double click. All right, so this one looks better because I actually see more action happening. You know, you could see more bump action happening. And now with the two speeds, I guess I could control it. The faster it's moving, I guess, the more it looks like the water's moving. So one direction is minus 0.03. Let's say that. And the other direction, I'm just going to say 0.04. And you see how that looks like layers of water already? So just with this simple, well, not so simple, but understanding how to make a shader graph for this, I just played around with the normal setting of my texture. You know, I had it go in two different directions, like blending it going one way to tile the texture, the normal one way, and tile the texture the other way. And the movement factor for the water, it's coming because I'm using time. And since time is always moving, that is being used as an input to something. You get a texture that's moving all by itself. So that's there. Let me save this asset, the shader graph asset, and close the window. So now here we have our water, and let me just put the camera in the same direction here, Control Shift F, and now I could pick the plane again. So now we have this water, and if I press play, the texture applied to the plane has that water effect to it all by itself. And if I added another shape into the scene, like a cube, like I had in the other one, or if I also add a sphere, add a cube and a sphere. Let me just move the sphere over here, and the cube, I'll just put it over here, a little bit separated. And I just want to make the sphere bigger. So I'm just going to make it bigger so we could really see things on it. And the cube too. Okay, so we got a sphere and a cube, and they're both sitting in the water. So now, since this is a texture that I made using the water shader, all I have to do is drag and drop it. And now this also will have the texture of it on there. Or if I drag it and drop it on any shape, they'll have the same effect on them. Okay, let me just fix the camera a little bit so we could see that. Control Shift F. All right, and now if I press play, I mean, I don't even have to press play, that they do the movement, but I'll press play anyway so you can see the movement on the both of them. And I guess on each one, if here on the sphere or the cube, I could pick it. Since it's a texture on there, I could just modify the texture for this object here and change the speeds. Oh, it's changing it for everything since it's one material. Okay. But otherwise, like, it's just that automatic. And this is just the beginnings, I'm thinking, of what I could do with shader graphs. Because if I could move normals around, I could probably move other things too. Like, let's look back in here and see some of the other types of nodes that I could add. You know, I was playing around with the normal, but there's also this thing called position. There's also the smoothness and the metallicness of a shape. So maybe water should be a little shinier. I don't know. Let's see what that looks like. No, maybe it should be less metallic, more metallic. I don't think water looks metallic, but you could just play with any of these input nodes. You can make up a graph to control any of these input nodes for the material, and that's amazing that you could do it with this graph method instead of writing any code. Now, if I did want to see the code that makes this graph, I think there's a thing I could do where I could view the code that this does to convert to subgraph, convert to inline node, somewhere in here. It looks like I could also, from the shader graph here, go and open up the documentation. Okay, that takes me online. And here it looks like there's a different things like the graph window, the blackboard, I think is this thing. And the node menu. So here's like some instructions, but where is it? I think I could output this to see what it would look like as the old shader graph code instead of using this graph that was like shader code. So I close the shader graph window. I click on this. Oh, what's this? Look, compile and show code. Dude, this could be it. Current build, DirectX OpenGL. Let's see if I press this button. It's turning the graph into code, I think. Let's see what happens. So you can see the difference between the way we do it with a graph and the way you used to have to do it with code. It's going to go Visual Studio. And how much code did we have? Oh God, that was a lot of code. I guess it had a lot of code for all the different types of rendering engines like DirectX, OpenGL. This here is a Direct3D method for it. Blah, 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 blah. Look at all this code you would have had to type to do the same thing. So, whew, that's pretty nice that we could just do it with a graph. There you go. This is the first tutorial, but I'm going to be playing around with shader graph. We're probably going to see some more stuff later on. Hey, see you guys next time. Bye.